Well, with me here, Kwang Yi-wei. She's head of strategic research at Parker Fitzgerald, and Ann Pettifor. She is economist and director of Prime. Well, Ann, let me start with you. On the basis that the government's ruling out staying in the customs union, where on earth do we go from here?
Well, it's really not clear at all. I'm a Remainer, but it does appear to me that Brexit is not Brexit, and that the Prime Minister is preparing for Brexit not to be Brexit. There's no preparations going to get us ready for that moment at the end of March next year when we'll be out.
You mean what Brexiteers themselves call Brexit in name only?
Yes. I mean, we need, we've got a border of 19,000 miles. We've got 40 commercial airports with border posts. If we're going to restrict migration, where is the infrastructure to manage that? Where are the replacements for all the employees that may go back home to Europe? I'm thinking of the agricultural sector. I'm thinking of the 26,000 NHS doctors who are not Brits, What are we doing about training new doctors? So in a sense, it's as if the government is sitting on its hands and really willing for this not to happen somehow. Well,
it's come up with two solutions, hasn't it? The customs partnership and maximum facilitation, sometimes known as MaxFac.
Yes.
Their MPs are split on them. There are varying views on whether either are workable. What do you think?
Well, I think the Prime Minister has been told today very firmly by the European Research Group, I think it's called, that no, 60 MPs are not going to back this. And it's clearly fell at the Cabinet meeting this afternoon. And it's back to the drawing board nearly 2 years after we signed the Article 50 transition arrangement. So it does seem to me that we're stuck in... This is no woman's land.
Kwang Yi, what do you think then?
I think Anne makes a very good point. So I think this is just another case of trying to square a triangle. So by triangle, I mean the three red lines of wanting to leave the customs union and the single market, not to have a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic, and not to have a customs check between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK.
But what about the ability to do trade deals if we get stuck in this position at the moment? And this is what the Brexiteers, of whom you're one, we should say, are really adamant on. We've got to leave the customs union because we've got to be able to strike out on our own.
I think the case is, I think there are two things. One thing is this is only a beginning of perhaps many iterations of the debate. There's a lot of political consensus to be gained within the Conservative Party, within Westminster, and also with Brussels. So it's prolonged uncertainty for the business. But also I think it will be hard to actually strike an independent deal in services with the likes of US or China when we can't open up the goods market completely. I think there's a sense of reciprocation involved.
You think the two go hand in hand?
And I think that there are two sides of the same coin, and I think for the same matter, perhaps customs union and the single market is perhaps two sides of the same coin.
What do you make of that, Anne?
So prolonged uncertainty isn't something to look forward to, but there is a cliff edge. There is a moment when actually we're going to drop off, and this is going to affect both the EU but also the UK. I mean, we mustn't forget that 50% of all our trade goes to Europe. There are loads of businesses who must be really worried about their supply lines and about their ability to sell into our biggest trading partner. And with complete uncertainty as to what's going to happen with other trading partners.
We have, of course, got this transition agreement in place now, though, assuming we get sign-off on the ultimate deal eventually. I mean, that does buy businesses a bit more time in terms of getting their ducks in a row,
Well, and the gossip is that we're going to extend that transition arrangement. But apparently, Article 50 was about withdrawing from the European Union. So I'm not sure that we're allowed to extend it. But I think, knowing the Brits, we may well muddle through and we may well just extend the transition period and carry on as ever. But Brexit will not be Brexit.
No, and the Brits, well, Brussels does love a bit of fudge as well, doesn't it, of
yes.
course. What about this prospect that Anne's just raised of a no-deal scenario? Does that concern you?
I think, in terms of, I think first of all, I think the industry and the regulators, policymakers are working very hard to make sure that this doesn't occur. And also, I think in terms of the city and the financial services, we're pushing very hard for regulatory equivalence, and then the industry is preparing very hard for that. So I think maybe the bigger discussion is, the cliff edge scenario. I think we need to do more contingency planning, and the debate perhaps need to move on to the more nitty-gritty matters, operational matters. How do you actually manage a relocation process? How do you actually manage your balance sheet after Brexit? This real matters.
Sorry, Anne, go on.
What worries me is that I think the city is being very relaxed, quite happy to see the trade in goods kind of dished, put away. really concerned about the trade in services and thinking that that's really the way to go for the future, and therefore not to worry about all the real trade that we do in goods with Europe. That kind of relaxed attitude by the city, I think, is incredibly dangerous for us, and especially for the makers. You know, George Osborne was very keen on Britain becoming an economy of makers, not just takers.
Yes,
but the takers.
to him, yes.
But the takers are calling the shots at the moment.